Hello and welcome, DCTP.tv from the DLD in 2016 in Munich. My name is Philipp Banse and my next guest is Carlo Ratti from the SENSEable Cities Lab at the MIT. Welcome, Carlo.
Thank you. Great to be here.
SENSEable Cities, what does it mean?
Well, we think today is a very exciting time when studying cities. And the reason is that all of those technologies that change our lives over the past 15, 20 years, now they're transforming urban space. It's about really the internet entering physical space, Internet of Things, really changing many dimensions of what we do in cities. And what we like to do at the lab is really study all of this.
And can you give some examples? Because, for example, I was at the sewage provider in our city, and he said, well, we have to really manage the whole city watering system during, say, a World Cup final, because we have the play going on, no one is going to the toilet, and then in halftime, everyone runs to the toilet and uses the water, and we really have to adjust the water flow.
Well, that's an interesting example. I think, sewage is an interesting dimension of cities. And as a matter of fact, we're actually working on sewage with a project called Underworld. We're looking at bacteria and viruses in sewage. But I think there's many other dimensions we can look at. Think about how we can look at mobility and allow people to share mobility in a better way. Think about how we can look at most aspects of urban life, really. It's about energy, it's about mobility, it's about water, it's about waste, it's about citizen participation. All of this can actually be radically transformed by new technologies.
And can you give some examples where a city really feels what's going on in a bigger picture?
But let me give you just a couple of examples. One example is we did a project in New York City. We took taxi data from all of New York, and we looked at how many trips could be shared. And actually, by looking at that, we realized that 40% of trips in New York could be shared without introducing any delay on the system. And that is something we did 2-3 years ago. As a matter of fact, then came to the attention of Uber. We started collaborating with Uber since then, and as you might know, Uber Pool does exactly that, allows people to share mobility. So that's one example of how big data allows us to better understand the city and hence to transform it.
And how does it influence architecture?
It's a very good question. It depends how you define architecture. What is architecture for you?
It's the way we build our cities, for example. Like, it means streets, how we design space where people live and travel.
I would take that as a very conservative reply. I think architecture is more about how we interface with the environment around ourselves. And if you look at that, an architecture, of course, is about bricks, is about stone, is about what we've been dealing with for thousands of years. But architecture is also about digital, it's about new interfaces, it's about really all those things that mediate how we communicate with the space out there.
And can you give an example what you visualize there in the future, and when you have sensors everywhere that sense where is somebody moving, who's using how much electricity, where the cars are going?
Look, I think there's many things we can do with this technology, and efficiency shouldn't necessarily be the only goal. I think one of the things we are seeing more and more is about sociability, how a lot of this can actually help us to come together better. But if you want to focus on efficiency, going back to your question, let me give you one example. If you look at this building probably empty a lot of the year, but still heated or air conditioned. If you just had little sensors in order to understand occupancy, then you could actually fine-tune heating and cooling with occupancy and save a lot of energy. As a matter of fact, we did a project in this sense called local warming. It was on show last year, where we actually tried to concentrate heating, not on buildings, but on people. Like a bubble of heat that follows you at exactly the temperature you want.
And you say there are other topics apart from efficiency. What else? The quality of living, maybe one, or mobility?
Ultimately, what this boils down to is something much more profound. It's about interfacing with the built environment, with the environment of the city, with space out there, in a similar way to what we do with a biological environment, in a dynamic way. It's about an architecture that starts to sense and respond to us.
Yeah, but can you provide an example? What do you visualize there? How does the city differently behaves when it really senses what we want?
Well, first of all, I think you're a little bit stuck on the fact that the city should really look different. I think the city will not look that different tomorrow. In the same way as the city of the Romans 2,000 years ago looks pretty much like the city we have today. Yeah, there will be some changes, but the key thing is about urban experience in the city. In that city, if you're able to get mobility, just because you synchronize with other people and share a cab or share an Uber or share things. In that city, if you're able to meet other people in a new way, in that city, if you're able to say what you feel about the city passionately and share it with the community, well, all those things are going to be incredible changes in the way we experience urban space.
And what does it mean for politics? Do these cities have to be governed in a different ways?
I think, to be honest, I believe that government can play a role, but in many cases the best role government can play is don't play too much. Is let people do, let people experiment, allow people to use Airbnb, Uber, many other things, and let this kind of ecosystem grow. Not try to think about smart cities in a top-down way, but actually more in a bottom-up, fertile ecosystem.
All right, Carlo, I think you have to go. Thank you very much for your time.
Great conversation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very
soon.
much. This is Philip Bunz from DLD16 with Carlo Ratti from the SENSEable Cities Lab at the MIT in the USA. Thanks very much for watching. See you. Bye. Soon.